Welcome back to the Den of Episodes. I'm Marlowe Fox, and in today's show, we're diving into episode 2 of Monarch of the Glen, where Archie is still figuring out what it really means to be a laird. There's a village race that doesn't go quite as planned, a dinner that goes spectacularly wrong, all the while dealing with a bank executive who has come to collect on the defaulted loan. It's funny, awkward, and heartwarming. The perfect glimpse into life at Glenbogle. So grab your cup of tea or coffee, settle in while I stoke the fire, and once again, let's journey through the Highlands together. This week we have a couple of new characters. We have Fleming, who is a no-nonsense representative who turns into a softie after spending a couple of days at Glenbogle. Kilwillie is Hector's best friend. He's wealthy, and we see he has a friendly rivalry with Hector. Kilwillie is played by Julian Fellowes, who happens to be the man who created Downton Abbey. In the Foxy Spotlight, we have Richard Briers. He plays Hector MacDonald. He was born on January 14th, 1934, in Rains Park, Surrey, England. During his career, he had 256 acting credits. Besides Monarch of the Glen, another notable work would be his series The Good Life, which ran for 4 seasons, beginning in 1975. He married fellow actress Ian Davies in 1956, and they had 2 daughters. One of them, Lucy, is also an actress. He was appointed the OBE in 1989 and the CBE in 2003. OBE stands for Officer of the Order of the British Empire. It's given for significant achievement in areas like arts and culture, charity work, education, healthcare, and business or public service. You can use the distinction after your name, for instance, Richard Briers, OBE. CBE stands for Commander of the Order of the British Empire and is a higher honor than OBE. I was under the impression that either of those made you a knight or a dame, but I was wrong. To achieve that, you must be awarded a KBE, or a Knight of the British Empire, or a DBE, Dame of the British Empire. With those, you are thereafter referred to as Sir or Dame. Mr. Briers passed away on February 17, 2013, at the age of 79. And now it's time for the deep dive. The episode opens with a mail delivery. Lexi hands it to Hector, who takes it all the while humming The Bonny Banks of Loch Lomond. Loch Lomond is a scenic lake in the Highlands, and the song is a traditional Scottish song from the early 19th century. You may have heard it, or maybe it was familiar to me because I've watched so much British television and movies. And it goes like this. Forgive my voice. Oh, you'll take the high road, and I'll take the low road, and I'll be in Scotland afore ye. Yikes. Archie asks for the mail as he sees it's from the bank. Hector refuses and marches up the stairs to put it in a drawer with a multitude of other unopened letters. Yet again, we have Archie trying to go back to London to take care of his business there. With suitcases in hand, he goes into what must be the library to tell his parents he's leaving. Hector asks him, "Tell me, boy, do you count packing suitcases as your very favorite hobby?" Archie grimaces as he puts the suitcases down. Molly asks Archie if he's in pain, and he says it's that mattress. He says, "If I'm going to stay, something's going to have to be done about it. It's like sleeping on a sack of King Edwards." King Edwards, it turns out, is a type of potato, and sleeping on a sack of them would indeed be miserable. Molly picks up on Archie staying, and he says just until he straightens things out, he intends to go back to London to talk over his plans with Justine. At the school, we see Katrina talking to another teacher, Maureen. Katrina's dressed to go for a run, and they discuss needing some pasture land that belongs to the MacDonalds to build a new gym for the school. Katrina's going to enter the annual hill race, and Maureen asks if the new laird is in the race. Katrina says she doesn't know and doesn't care, and takes off. I have to say, the setting for this scene is so idyllic and beautiful. It makes me wish all of us could live in such beauty on a daily basis. In the next scene, Lexi walks into the larder. A larder is a cool, slightly dark room just off the kitchen where you would hang game to age and preserve the meat before cooking. She comes upon Duncan doing chin-ups in there amongst the pheasants and rabbits. I guess this means Lexi not only cooks the game, but also dresses it. What a woman! Duncan says he's training for the hill race. Lexi has to poke a bit of fun at him about that. She tells him Archie's going to sort things out and then come back to Glenbogle to sort things out there. But she thinks that might involve giving all the employees the boot. Don't just stand there, she says to Duncan. His gorgeousness will be wanting a lift. Outside, we see Duncan and Archie about to head off in the Land Rover when Duncan slams on the brakes to give Hector a ride. Hector says he's off to wage war and give me a lift to the front. I wonder what that could mean. Hector is dropped off at the gates of Kill Willie Castle. Hector takes off into the forest as if he's on a covert mission. He comes up behind Kill Willie and tells him Handy Hock, which is German for hands up. He then tells Kill Willie that the war is over for him. At Glenbogle Station, we see the arrival of a man in a suit. He crosses paths with Archie and tells him he's headed to Glenbogle House. Once again, Archie's attempt to return to London is thwarted. Meanwhile, at Kill Willie Castle, we see Hector and Kill Willie standing around a huge table all decked out with a makeshift battlefield and lots of miniature soldiers. The two men discuss which battle they should act out and settle on Culloden. This was the tragic 1746 clash between Jacobite forces and the English army. The Jacobite army were made up of mostly Scottish Highland clans. Their goal was to restore the Stuart monarchy to the British throne. They lost 1,500 men in under an hour, while the British lost around 50. This ended further attempts to restore the Stuarts to the throne. Kill Willie asked Hector if he would care for some Kill Willie gentleman's relish on an oat cake. Gentleman's relish is a pate-like spread of anchovies, butter, salt, and seasonings. Like Marmite, it is dark brown and intensely salty, but much more potent. Sometimes people call it anchovy paste for adults. This sounds disgusting to me, and if I don't like Marmite, I'm pretty sure I wouldn't like this. Archie brings the man back to Glenbogle. As he gets out of the Land Rover, the two terriers attack his ankles. Archie refers to them as Monty and Rommel, and we finally have the name of the second dog. Yay! Archie tells them upon entering that Queen Victoria once stayed there, and it has been in the family over 400 years. The man rudely tells him he's not interested, that he's merely a bank executive there to do business, as he complains that his Boston loafers have been ruined by the dogs. He asks to speak with Hector, and Archie directs him to the library. Archie asks Lexi to make them a bite to eat. In the library, Archie informs Fleming that he's now the owner of the estate. Fleming tells him that he's here to collect on the defaulted loan and the breached overdraft limit, that as of Monday, the estate will no longer belong to the MacDonalds unless the debt is paid. Archie says the estate is all they possess and his parents can't possibly leave. Fleming says sternly that he is there to close him down. In the kitchen, we find Lexi and Duncan listening to the Riverboat Song by Ocean Colour Scene. This was a fairly popular song in Britain in the 90s. Lexi is proudly putting together the scones and pancakes, and when I say pancakes, in the UK it would be more like a crepe. She carries it into the library along with the tea, but not before catching a glimpse of how she looks in the mirror. As she sits down the tray, she proceeds to flirt and bewitch Fleming from the moment she walks in. He is taken aback, but obviously charmed. She says she can't possibly call him Mr. Fleming, and what is his first name? He says he can't possibly tell her. She then states, a man of mystery, eh? She says she will prepare one of the 13 rooms to which he says he will not be staying the night. Before she's left the room, she spies his damaged shoe and told him she will have the local cobbler repair it. By local cobbler, she means Duncan. Then she says he now has no choice but to stay. In the dining room, Archie gathers everyone except Hector for a meeting. Fleming is taking a walk outside, and he steps in dog poo with his one remaining shoe. He has a rubber boot on the other foot. Archie has the plan to seduce Fleming and make him see that Glenbogle is a place of potential and the bank's money is safe. He gives everyone a task toward achieving this. Most importantly, Archie tells them they must keep Fleming away from Hector. Too late for that, as Kill Willie pulls up in his boat to drop Hector off. Hector yells to Fleming, who is standing on the bank of the lock. He says, "Hey, you, take the painter." Fleming has no idea what a painter is, and Hector says that it's a rope, you dolt. Painter is a very old nautical term. Fleming takes the boat's rope to pull them in. In the process, he gets his pants and shoes wet. Kill Willie leaves, but not before telling Hector that next time he will grind Hector into the dirt at Bull Run. Fleming and Hector begin arguing about the defaulted loan. Archie tries to intervene, but the bank manager tells him he will inspect the estate's books the next morning, and he storms off to his room. Archie walks to the school to find Katrina. He tells her she can have the land for the gym. However, he needs something in return. He asks her what she is doing tonight. She said she was going to worm the dog, but she guesses it will keep. In the next scene, the two of them are at the hunting lodge, where they're surrounded by a multitude of papers at the desk. Katrina says she guesses it was Golly who told Archie she was good at cooking the books. She settles in for what she says will be hours of work, with the assurance from Archie that he will give her the land so the school can build a gym. Lexi walks into Fleming's room with his lunch tray and finds Fleming with his pants off because they're wet. Lexi takes the pants and lays on the charm by saying, "There is no sweeter sight, more pregnant with pathos and vulnerability, than a slender-legged Gadgie standing in his wee Y-fronts and socks." He smiles as she leaves. And if you didn't know what a couple of those words were, I'll tell you a little later. Back in the lodge, Katrina tells Archie what a mess the accounts are. Archie hands her a glass of what must be scotch. They continue their usual arguing, and Katrina storms out as Archie basically says she won't be getting the land for the gym. Next, we see Fleming coming out of the bathroom and standing in the hallway appreciating a large painting. Lexi comes along and they have a sweet interaction about it when he tells her that the painting reminds him of his mother. Downstairs, Archie phones Justine and they have an argument. She hangs up without saying goodbye. Archie looks troubled. Next, Archie walks into Fleming's bedroom as he is standing in his nightshirt. Archie hands over the books and Fleming says he has the beginning of a cold. Outside, Katrina is training for the race again, and Molly is timing her. Molly says it's the first time a woman has entered the Glenbogle race. Molly is extremely enthusiastic about a woman possibly winning. Back at Glenbogle House, Archie approaches the door to Fleming's bedroom with the tea tray and hears him laughing inside. He walks in and sees Fleming is looking over the estate books. He sets the tray down and leaves, only to hear Fleming laughing uproariously again. In the kitchen, Lexi is going over the dinner menu with Archie. He tells her how important this dinner for Fleming is. At dinner, Fleming praises Lexi's soup, and she says it is nettle and raspberry with a sprinkling of Orkney cheese. Nettles are wild greens with a spinach-like flavor. They have little stinging hairs on them, and you have to boil or steam them first to remove the bitterness and the hairs. The soup would be green, slightly tart, with a creamy, cheesy finish. When Lexi tells him what the soup is called, he says, "Will I get stung?" Hector proclaims that the soup smells of wet dog. Fleming says the books convey an accurate picture of the Enterprise, and to use Hector's analogy for the soup, rub it down with an old towel and shoot the mud. Duncan is furious with the way Fleming is overtly flirting with Lexi and the things he is saying about the estate. So he takes the plate of salmon that he's to serve Fleming and sabotages it with cayenne pepper. Fleming takes one bite and immediately starts retching and coughing. He runs from the room and angrily tells Archie he needs a check for £100,000 to stop the bank's takeover. The next morning in the kitchen, we find Molly is rallying the troops in their plan to change Fleming's mind about the estate. Golly asks her what they're going to do about the money, and Molly says she has a cunning plan. Whatever could that be? Lexi goes into Fleming's bedroom and takes him his breakfast. She tells them that she is taking him for a little jaunt after breakfast. When he says he can't, she says she doesn't offer herself to any old Tom, Dick, or Archie. She tells him she will meet him by the bike sheds in 10 minutes, and maybe instead of Fleming, she will call him Flem for short. Next, we see Fleming go outside to the side of Lexi on a four-wheeler in a very short skirt. He climbs on behind her, and they take off with Golly on another quad. Molly is on the phone putting £5,000 down for the hill race. Hector walks in grumbling in the background, "Where is Lexi? And what about his breakfast?" Molly says he will have to make his own. Archie walks in and Molly tells him to get dressed for the hill race. He doesn't want to, but Molly convinces him. Hector returns carrying a loaf of bread, and he declares he has the bread, and now all we need is a means of toasting it. Next, we see Duncan by the river carrying a big tub of live trout. He seems to have bought them from a man in a vehicle labeled McMurdo's Trout Farm. He dumps them in the water and they don't seem to swim away, perhaps from shock. Apparently the plan is for Fleming to easily catch the fish. The next scene has a carnival or fair feel to it, as people are gathered for the races, with stalls of food scattered about. Hector presents Archie with the Tam O'Shanter that the 5th Laird of Culloden wore when he escaped the clutches of the redcoats. He tells him he wants him to wear it. Archie groans that it's filthy, and Hector says it's history and must be worn if this is the last time a MacDonald runs the hill race. Down at the river, Golly and Lexi help Fleming catch a trout with his bare hands. They sit on the bank together, laughing and talking, and Golly tells them he has things to do and leaves. At the race, an announcer comes on and asks all the runners to take their place. We see that Duncan is also in the race and decked out in a kind of Braveheart Klansman outfit, complete with a plastic axe. Golly tells Archie that Molly has a lot of money on the race and she's betting on Katrina to win. He tells Archie to let her win, and he refuses. The race begins, and we see them running through the countryside and across a stream. There are even runners in costume. What looks like very hot and cumbersome costumes, like a rabbit and a skunk. Why on earth would anyone choose to run a race dressed like that? We do at one point see the rabbit stop and put his hands on his knees to try and catch his breath. Here I have to tell you that one time I had a job where the company I worked for did a promotional thing at a local mall. We were doing a children's book reading involving a duck. We had this huge duck costume with the full head that comes off and everything. I reluctantly volunteered to be the duck. Now, I don't suffer from claustrophobia, but having that duck head attached to the costume and it couldn't be removed without someone's help almost sent me into a panic attack. I got hot and felt like I couldn't breathe. Never again. It was unbearable. Then it's back to Lexi and Fleming, where Fleming is declaring his love to Lexi and desire to settle down in a cottage there and have children. It's clear Lexi doesn't take him seriously. He even asks for a kiss, and she agrees, but says no tongue. On the bank above them we see Duncan running along the race path when he spies the two of them kissing. He lets out a war cry and runs down the bank, shouting that he's going to kill him. Fleming says he will fight for her, and then Duncan pushes him in the stream, and Fleming is seen floating away. Archie comes upon the scene of Lexi hitting Duncan and then sees Fleming in the stream. He gives Fleming a hand and pulls him out. Lexi tells Archie to go on and get back in the race, that he can win. Katrina runs by and shouts that she told him she would catch him. They run together and she says she will let him win if he gives her that bit of land. Archie says he will beat her. She says she's faster and the Sassenachs are beaten again. A Sassenach is a Gaelic term meaning, from a Highland Scottish perspective, an outsider from England or the Lowlands. This makes it clear Katrina no longer considers Archie a Highlander. Katrina falls down and Archie stops to help her up as Duncan runs past them to win the race. Archie helps Katrina along and they cross the finish line together. Over at the race podium, Archie presents Duncan with a gigantic bottle of what must be scotch. Lexi hugs and kisses him, and Fleming shakes his hand and says, "Well done." Archie then announces Katrina winner of the women's race and equal second. He presents her with a much smaller bottle of some type of liquor. He also announces that he is giving her the land she wants. Lexi runs up to Archie and tells him well done. Archie tells her he's sorry and that he doesn't really want her to go. She says, "I'm not going anywhere, boy. Now hush your mouth and give us a kiss." Then a photographer takes photos of the two of them along with Katrina and tells the girls to give Archie a kiss. Just as the girls are kissing him, Archie glances up and sees Justine, his girlfriend, and says her name. She says, "You've kissed everyone else in Scotland. Aren't you going to give me one?" Next, we're at Glenbogle station, where we see Archie and Fleming getting out of the vehicle. Fleming states all the horrible things that have happened to him during his stay and says he's had the time of his life. Fleming shakes Archie's hand and says the bank will give a 6-month extension and extend the overdraft by another £75,000. He tells him to make the most of it. Archie thanks him, and Fleming tells Archie to tell Lexi his first name is Lancelot. He then departs. Justine gets out of the Land Rover. I didn't even realize she was in there. And she says, "We need to talk now." And that concludes this episode. Now it's time to go over our across the pond translations. First, we have the word bra, which is spelled B-R-A-W. It means excellent or impressive. Like when Lexi says to Fleming, "My man, my bra wee man." And when she says we, she's not calling him small or little. In this case, it's used as an affectionate term. In the kitchen, we had the larder, which was a cool storage room or cupboard for food, especially meat and dairy, that was used in the days before modern refrigeration. But obviously, they're still using it at Glenbogle. In one scene, Lexi refers to Fleming as a slender-legged gadgie standing in his wee Y-fronts. And here when she says slender-legged gadgie, the word gadgie means guy or man, and Y-fronts would be men's briefs. In the dining room scene, Duncan refers to Fleming as a gowk, and this means a fool or simpleton. And in the race, we see Hector present a tam o' shanter to Archie, and that would be a traditional Scottish hat. It's round and flat on top and usually made of wool. It often has a pom-pom in the center. The hat is named after a character in a Robert Burns poem of the same name. In our animal sightings this week, we have Hector's dogs. This week we found out the name of the second dog, which is Rommel. So we have Rommel and Monty. Not surprisingly, Hector has chosen two important figures from history. Rommel is named after Erwin Rommel, one of Nazi Germany's most famous military commanders. He was nicknamed the Desert Fox for his tactics in North Africa. Monty is named after Bernard Law Montgomery, nicknamed Monty. He was a senior British Army commander who led the victory against Rommel and his troops at El Alamein, Egypt in 1942. Churchill famously said, "Before Alamein, we never had a victory. After Alamein, we never had a defeat." Monty also led the Allied forces at Normandy. The full Monty is used in British dialogue even today. Someone might say they went the full Monty, meaning they didn't hold back. It's also the title of a 1997 British film where a group of working-class men who are jobless come up with the idea of a male strip show to make some quick cash. They promise the full Monty, meaning complete nudity. I liked that movie mainly because Robert Carlyle was in it. He's a favorite actor of mine who appeared in a 1990s series, Hamish Macbeth, another Scottish show where Carlyle plays the police constable of a small village in Scotland called Loch Dubh. And Alistair Mackenzie from Monarch of the Glen was also in an episode of that show. Our other animal sighting would be the trout. I was confused why the trout didn't just swim away when Duncan dumped it in the river, but I talked to my son who is a fisherman, and he said trout are very sensitive, and it's not easy to catch and release them. So being hooked or taken out of the water is very stressful and leads to their death. So those trout that Duncan dumped in were probably close to death when Fleming quickly caught one. And that brings us to the end of this edition of Monarch of the Glen. I'm finding out as I do this podcast that I learn a lot with each episode. And I pick out things from the episodes that I didn't even realize were there. It really is a deep dive for me, and I'm having a lot of fun, and I hope you all are having fun listening. From Glenbogle's Rolling Hills to Hector's Stubborn Pride, Episode 2 reminds us that you can't preserve tradition without handling modern responsibilities. Respect for the past must be balanced with practical action. Thank you for curling up in the den with me. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with a fellow telly lover, whether they're across the pond or right next door. If you'd like to share a thought or catch something I missed, you can email me at thedenofepisodes@yahoo.com. I'm Marlowe Fox, and until next time, keep the kettle on and the episodes rolling.